We have more for your ears only. I'm David Alpern.
I'm Eddie Robinson with this quote from the news. At the end of the day, it's a matter of image, a matter of recognition, a matter of reputation. That was Georgetown University professor of global logistics Ricardo Ernst on the report that Foxconn, China's major producer of Apple electronic products, has given into pressure for reforms, including limiting hours in the work week and improving factory environment, which had 43 health violations. A computer security firm in Tokyo, meanwhile, traced the hacking of companies in Japan and India and Tibetan activists to Chinese groups with a government connection. Now this.
How would you feel about your employer playing around with your Facebook account? Some companies have asked for prospective employees' logins during the interview process, and both Facebook and some U.S. senators aren't exactly clicking like.
A Slate.com news video. E-privacy was a very public issue last week. First, Democratic Senators Chuck Schumer of New York and Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut asked for Justice Department and Equal Employment Opportunity Commission investigations of companies asking for job seekers' Facebook logins. Then the Federal Trade Commission issued a report urging that Congress enact general privacy legislation and web-involved companies provide purchasers with privacy options, both more simple and transparent.
Apple, meanwhile, started rejecting apps that access UDIDs, the numerical identifiers for each iPad and iPhone. And Yahoo said it will add do not track options across its entire global network. To examine the growing concern over e-privacy and the growing commerce and data about all our lives online, for your ears only, we have Declan McCullagh, chief political correspondent at CNET. Declan, welcome to our program.
Pleasure to be here.
Let's start with Facebook shakedowns. What are some of the employers asking for that kind of online look-see?
I think this is one of those political controversies. It's become a political controversy that is a bit overstated. There aren't many employers who are actually doing this. A North Carolina Police Department was one of them. The Maryland Division of Corrections, which wanted to weed out potential gang affiliations among potential prison guards, is another. I mean, you can really count these on one hand. Nevertheless, it's something that has resonated in the Internet community, and it's scared a lot of people, especially during this tough job environment. And so it's gotten a lot of attention, even though it seems to be not really that much of a trend if there are only less than 5 entities doing it.
Does a request for a job seeker's Facebook access compare legally with watching the person page through it himself or just asking directly about very personal matters?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, in fact, you put your finger on it. What the difference is that Facebook about a week ago said, well, if our terms of service don't allow you to give out your password to, say, a prospective employer. So if you, a prospective employer, are asking for someone's password, you're violating the terms of service. And if push comes to shove and there's ever a lawsuit, then you, this employer, could be civilly liable for inducing breach of contract. And so this is a long way to say that Facebook has made it more difficult for employers to ask for someone's password as long as they want to be on the right side of the law. But it doesn't address the second point, which is, okay, I'm not asking for your password, but here's a laptop. Please log in, poke around, and I'll look over my shoulder. And that is something that they could still do even after Facebook's change to its policies. And it's going to be difficult for Facebook to restrict that because sometimes you want someone to look over your shoulder like, hey, look at these photos I just posted.
If a job seeker refuses Facebook access now and does not get hired, does he or she have any legal recourse?
It depends. There's no specific law at the state or federal level. There's been talk of such laws, and there's one that was voted down by the House of Representatives this week. But there's no law saying that if you refuse to give up your Facebook password, that you have some sort of legal recourse. But in reality, employers have to be a little careful because if they see something in someone's Facebook account, a prospective hire's Facebook account, that deals with things like attempting to organize a union, that's protected under federal law. If you're not hired because you disclosed your religion or sexual orientation, that would violate federal law, and some states like California have laws that go further. So employers have to be a little careful, but in general, if an employer wants your Facebook wants to poke around your Facebook account, perhaps shoulder surfing, and you refuse and you don't get hired, you're out of luck.
If history is any judge, you wrote last week, soon job seekers will be savvy enough to clean up their online histories or actually buy products that do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reality of it. If this were a static environment and prospective employees didn't actually know what was going on, then this might actually work on the part of an employer. But in reality, prospective employees are going to know that this company you're applying for does this. You set up a fake Twitter account, you set up a fake Gmail account or a fake Facebook account, and here's my password. Log in. This is the sanitized version. So I think that if this becomes more widespread, then you're just going to have people setting up two accounts, and then the employer has to say, well, I mean, is this really the account or not? And they're not generally in a position to know whether it's real or not.
What are an employer's rights to fire people because of what they say or do online once they've been hired? And does it make any difference if the activity is done during work hours or other times?
Well, if you're doing things like trash-talking your employer, yeah, you're out the door. If you're doing things like disclosing information about company meetings, even if you think it's innocuous, yeah, you're probably out the door as well. Things that can limit an employer's right to fire you. Now, keep in mind that most jobs in the United States are at will, right? I mean, you can leave at any time, and your employer can make you leave at any time. If you have a contract, if you're a union employee with a contract, if you're an executive with a contract, you're often protected from being fired without a just cause. But things that can get an employer in trouble would be firing someone over religion that was disclosed on a blog, sexual orientation that was disclosed in a blog, attempting to organize a union, which led to a National Labor Relations Board complaint against a Connecticut company 2 years ago. I mean, but in reality, these are relatively narrow categories. Apple has fired employees for making negative comments about the company. An Australian government employee was fired for using Google to search for relatively tame, but probably not entirely work-appropriate things. So, yeah, you got to be careful what you're doing on or off the job because this is at will. They can make you leave and you can leave.
Declan McCullagh is a chief political correspondent at CNET.
Quote from the news, the end of his line. That was the verdict of Las Vegas billionaire Sheldon Adelson on Newt Gingrich, to whose GOP presidential effort he has donated millions. Frontrunner Mitt Romney further solidified his lead with endorsements from Florida Senator Marco Rubio, congressional conservative leader Paul Ryan, and former President George H.W. Bush.
Next, not so mad about the new Mad Men, for your ears only.